Hard work often brings pain, physical, mental, and emotional. It tests patience, breaks comfort zones, and pushes limits. Illustrates. That's why so many people avoid it. But here's the truth. Pain isn't a warning to stop. It's a signal that growth is happening. When muscles burn during exercise, that's not a sign of injury. It's the process of becoming stronger. The same is true for the mind and spirit. Illustrates. When effort feels uncomfortable, that's when transformation begins. Pain is not the enemy. What the study illustrates, it's evidence that you're leaving behind the old version of yourself. When you start something new, whether it's a fitness goal, a business, or mastering a skill, the early stages are always uncomfortable. There's confusion, mistakes, and setbacks. It feels like you're failing. That's the brain's natural response to unfamiliar territory. But instead of retreating, this is the exact moment to lean in. Illustrates the discomfort you feel is your mind adapting, rewiring itself, and preparing you to handle more. Every failure becomes a stepping stone. Study illustrates every tough moment is an opportunity to stretch your limits. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens in resistance. Study illustrates people often associate hard work with suffering, but that perspective can be changed. The brain is incredibly adaptable. When you start viewing hard moments as growth opportunities, your mind begins to shift. Instead of dreading the struggle, you start respecting it. What this study illustrates, you stop asking, why is this so hard? And start saying, this is what progress feels like. That simple mindset shift changes everything. The same task that once felt overwhelming begins to feel rewarding. Not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. Pain also teaches you how to focus. In moments of difficulty, all distractions fade away. You're left with your determination and your willpower. It's in those moments that your character is shaped. You learn who you are when things don't go as planned. You discover how much heart you truly have. Illustrates. And once you've walked through struggle and survived it, you build a quiet confidence that no one can take away. What this study illustrates, you begin to understand that isn't in avoiding pain. It's in overcoming it. Illustrates. Training your brain to love hard work means learning to find pride in the challenge. Most people only celebrate the end result, a trophy, a title, a paycheck. But those things are temporary. The real reward is becoming someone who doesn't break under pressure, someone who rises every time they fall. Illustrates. That identity is forged in pain, not comfort. When you show up day after day, despite setbacks, your brain learns resilience. It learns that quitting is not an option. That's how mental toughness is built. Not from winning, but from surviving the grind. Illustrates. There's no shortcut around this. You can't meditate your way past the struggle. You can't avoid the pain and expect the growth. Illustrates. The only way out is through. And the beautiful part is, every time you go through it, your capacity increases. What felt hard last month starts to feel normal. What overwhelmed you last year becomes part of your routine. That's progress. That's evolution. What this study illustrates, your brain gets conditioned to crave that growth, to seek out hard things, to embrace the challenge, not because it's easy. Illustrates, but because that's where greatness is born. This doesn't mean you chase burnout. It means you respect the process. Illustrates. You learn to listen to pain not as a reason to stop, but as a signal to push a little more. Illustrates. You learn to distinguish between destructive pain and productive discomfort. And most of all, what this study illustrates, you learn that hard work isn't punishment. It's a privilege. It means you're still in the game. It means you still have a chance to rise, to fight. Illustrates. To build something meaningful. So when the struggle comes, and it will, don't run, don't complain, don't quit. Look it in the eye and say, this is growth. Let it shape in you. And know that every drop of sweat, every ounce of effort, study illustrates. Every uncomfortable moment is preparing you for the next level. The pain of hard work isn't a wall. It's a door. And every time you walk through it, you become more stronger, smarter, hungrier. That's how you train your brain to love hard work, by seeing pain not as something to escape, but something to embrace. In a world obsessed with outcomes, it's easy to tie your worth to results. People wait for a win before they feel successful. illustrates. They wait for the perfect body before they feel confident, the promotion before they feel proud, or the trophy before they feel accomplished. Illustrates. But this mindset is limiting. It creates a narrow window of happiness that's only open during moments of victory. The truth is, success is not a finish line. It's a mindset. If you only celebrate results, you'll miss the beauty of the journey. This study illustrates, if you want to train your brain to love hard work, you have to fall in love with the process. The process is where the magic happens. What this study illustrates, it's where the discipline is built, where the lessons are learned, where character is forged. No one sees the late nights, the small decisions, the sacrifices, the doubts you overcome daily, but that's where greatness is born. The result is just a snapshot. The process is the full story. When you start to value the work itself, every rep, every step, every hour of focus, you begin to find fulfillment in effort, not just outcomes. You become driven by purpose, not praise. There's something powerful about showing up, even when there's no applause. It builds integrity, illustrates. It means you're doing the work not for attention, but because it matters to you. That kind of consistency changes you from the inside out. Illustrates. You don't wait for motivation, you create it. You don't need constant validation, you trust the path. You start to realize that every small action, no matter how invisible it seems, is laying a brick in the foundation of your future. Celebrating the process also keeps you grounded. If you only care about winning, every loss will destroy you. But if you care about progress, every challenge becomes an opportunity. You no longer fear failure because failure becomes feedback. You learn faster. You adapt, bounce back stronger. The journey becomes the reward. Illustrates. And every day is a chance to get better. That's how you build a mindset that thrives, not just survives. Study illustrates. Too many people give up because they don't see fast results. They compare their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. But what they don't see is the process behind that success, the grind, the patience, the setbacks. When you commit to the process, you stop comparing. This study illustrates. You stay in your lane. You focus on what you can control, your effort, your attitude, your habits. And when you master those, what the study illustrates, the results will come as a byproduct. But even if they don't come immediately, you're still winning because you're growing. Illustrates. Progress isn't always visible. Some days you'll feel like nothing's changing, but the seed you water today will bloom tomorrow. The hours you put in today will show up when it counts. Trust that. Believe in that. Celebrate showing up. Celebrate not quitting. Illustrates. Celebrate putting in the work, even when no one's watching. That's how you rewire your brain to find joy in effort. You begin to associate hard work with meaning, not misery. You stop chasing perfection and start embracing progress. When you fall in love with the process, you become unstoppable. Why? Because your motivation no longer depends on external rewards. You don't stop when things get hard. You don't fold under pressure. You don't quit when results are delayed. You stay locked in. You keep grinding. You stay hungry. Illustrate. That's what separates those who achieve long-term success from those who burn out chasing quick wins. The process gives you roots. It makes your drive unshakable. There will be days when you feel behind, days when it seems like nothing you do matters. That's normal. Study illustrates. That's part of the process. On those days, remind yourself this is where growth lives. This is the part that builds resilience. Illustrates. This is where champions are made. Every rep counts. Every effort matters. Even the smallest step forward is progress. Don't wait for a result to feel proud. Be proud of your discipline, your consistency, your commitment. And one day, the results will come. But by then, you'll realize they were never the point. The real reward was who you became along the way, the strength you built, the grit you developed, the habits you mastered. That's the power of loving the process. It turns every day into a victory, every obstacle into a lesson, and every moment into a building block for something greater. When you celebrate the process, you unlock the kind of motivation that lasts a lifetime. Hard work is not a one-time act of inspiration. It's a habit. And like any habit, it needs repetition. The same way you build physical strength by lifting weights consistently, you build mental strength by showing up day after day and putting in the work. study illustrates. Your brain operates through patterns. When you repeat a behavior over time, it becomes automatic. Illustrates. That's how champions are made, not through bursts of effort, but through the quiet repetition of hard work, even when no one is watching. Mental reps, just like physical ones, are the foundation of resilience, focus, and long-term success. The first time you push yourself to do something hard, your brain resists. It looks for comfort, for a way out. That's normal. The mind is wired to protect you from pain and effort. But when you push through that resistance, something incredible happens. You prove to yourself that you're capable of more than your emotions suggest. Illustrates. The second time, it gets slightly easier. The third time, you start to expect the challenge. By the 10th time, you've built momentum. What once felt like a mountain now feels like a routine. That's the power of mental reps. Each act of persistence is a vote for the person you want to become. Discipline isn't about being perfect every day. It's about choosing to try again and again until the hard thing becomes the normal thing. Your brain adapts to what you expose it to. If you consistently train it to choose effort over ease, over time, effort becomes your new standard. You don't wait for motivation to strike. You don't look for an easier path. You just do the work because that's who you are. You start to trust yourself. You start to believe in your consistency, and belief fuels behavior. Mental reps also create clarity. In the beginning, illustrates, your goal might feel vague or overwhelming, but with consistent effort, the path gets clearer. Your purpose sharpens. Your skills improve. Illustrates. Your mindset gets tougher. Each day of work builds on the last, even if you don't see immediate results. Illustrates. That's the key. Understanding that effort compounds over time. What feels small today becomes significant tomorrow. Your brain learns patience. It stops needing instant rewards and starts embracing the value of the long game. There will be days you don't feel like showing up. What this study illustrates, that's when mental reps matter most. Those are the days that separate the committed from the casual. When you show up despite the fatigue, the doubt, what this study illustrates, or the boredom, you're reinforcing your identity. You're telling your brain, this is what we do. That identity becomes your anchor. Illustrates. Even when life throws cows your way, you stay grounded because you've trained for this. You illustrates. You build a mental routine that doesn't crumble under pressure. Mental reps also build emotional control. Every time you push through frustration or fear, your brain learns to manage stress. You become less reactive, more strategic. You don't panic when things go wrong. You stay steady. That stability gives you an edge. It allows you to navigate challenges with a clear head. Illustrates. It gives you the confidence to take risks and the patience to endure setbacks. Illustrates. That kind of mental strength doesn't come from wishing. It comes from repetition. Consistency is not exciting. It's not flashy, but it's where greatness is built. Every time you choose to do the hard thing instead of the easy one, you're laying bricks. Those bricks become the foundation of your confidence, your discipline, your endurance. And eventually they form a structure so solid that nothing can shake it. People will look at your success and think it happened overnight. They won't see the daily reps. Study illustrates the small wins, the quiet victories. But you'll know, and that knowledge will be your fuel. Your brain doesn't change in a day. It changes with daily effort, with each task completed, each hour studied, each workout finished. This study illustrates you're not just checking off a box, you're building a mindset that thrives on challenge, a mindset that doesn't fear hard work. What this study illustrates, a mindset that refuses to quit. That's what mental reps do. They rewire your brain to expect effort and to welcome it. Illustrates. They transform hard work from a burden into a habit. So show up again and again. Not because it's easy, illustrates, but because repetition is the key to transformation. Trust the process, respect the grind, keep stacking reps. Your brain is always listening. What this study illustrates, always learning, always adapting. Teach it to rise when it wants to rest. Teach it to push when it wants to quit. And that's how you build a mind that craves hard work, not through motivation, but through relentless repetition, day by day, rep by rep. Illustrates until effort becomes second nature and excellence becomes your standard. Hard work becomes a way of life when it's no longer something you have to force. But something that flows from who you believe you are. The shift happens when discipline turns into identity. At first, you need reminders, goals, and external pushes to get moving. But over time, illustrates, if you keep showing up, you start to become someone different. You no longer say, I have to work hard. You start saying, this is who I am. That change in identity is the most powerful transformation you can experience, a study illustrates. Because when hard work becomes a part of your self-image, you no longer rely on motivation. You rely on who you've decided to be. Illustrates, identity is built through consistent action. Every time you choose to put in the work, even when you don't feel like it, you're reinforcing a message to yourself. You're proving that you are the kind of person who shows up no matter what. And the more often you do this, the stronger that belief becomes. Eventually, it's no longer about discipline as an external effort. It becomes internal. It becomes natural. Study illustrates. It becomes you. That's when the real growth begins. Not when you have to push yourself, but when the push comes from within. Most illustrates. Most people try to work hard for a short period of time to achieve a goal. They treat discipline like a temporary project. Study illustrates. But true transformation happens when discipline is rooted in identity. It's not about getting fit for the summer. It's about becoming a fit person. It's not about staying focused until a deadline. It's about becoming a focused person. When your actions align with your identity, consistency becomes automatic. You no longer have to negotiate with yourself. You no longer argue about what to do. You just do it. Study illustrates. It's because it's who you are. There is a deep sense of pride that comes from living in alignment with your values. Illustrates, when you say you are someone who works hard and you follow through, your current skyrockets, not because you achieved a result, study illustrates, but because you honored your own word. That integrity builds unstoppable momentum. You become someone who trusts themselves, someone who doesn't break under pressure, someone who can be counted on. That's what separates those who talk about greatness from those who live it. Illustrates. And turning discipline into identity also gives you freedom. It might seem like structure limits you, but in reality, it frees you from indecision and distraction. And you don't waste time questioning your path or debating whether to take action. You've already decided what this study illustrates. You've already committed. You wake up knowing what needs to be done. That clarity saves you energy. It sharpens your focus. It makes you more effective. Every minute you're not doubting yourself is a minute spent moving forward. That's the power of living with discipline as identity illustrates. This mindset also helps you endure setbacks. When you tie your identity to being someone who works hard, failure doesn't define you. What this study illustrates. You don't spiral when things don't go your way. You don't collapse under pressure. You keep going. What this study illustrates, because your actions are not about one single result. They're about a standard you hold for yourself. You stay committed even when it's hard, because quitting would mean betraying who you believe you are. And when your sense of identity is that strong, nothing can, the truth is you are always building identity through your actions. Every choice you make is a vote for the type of person you want to be. If you skip the workout, it illustrates you're casting a vote for inconsistency. If you show up and do the work, even when it's hard, you're voting for resilience. Over time, illustrates, those votes add up. They create a story you tell yourself about who you are. And that story becomes the script for your life. If you want to change your life, you must change your story. And that story changes through repeated action. Yeah. Hard work stops feeling like a chore when it starts feeling like your purpose. It stops being something you dread and being something you embrace, not because it gets easier, but because you grow into someone who finds meaning in the challenge, someone who is proud of the effort. Study illustrates someone who shows up not just for the goal, but because showing up is what they do. That's the essence of turning discipline into identity. So decide who you want to be, then act like it every day, every moment. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to feel motivated. Illustrates. Just start becoming that person through your actions. Eventually your brain catches up. Your habits align. And the work that once felt like a struggle begins to feel like home. That's the moment you've trained for. When discipline is no longer a burden, but a reflection of who you are. When hard work becomes your identity, success stops being a question of if and becomes a matter of when